second part of my introduction to the philosophy of nature, I would just like to start by repeating what I said, that in my view, nature is an idea in the mind of God. So cosmological evolution and Darwinism are kind of God's delirium, but they are nonetheless rational. So it must be explained from a Hegelian standpoint, cosmological evolution and Darwinism. And if you just know a little bit about Darwinism, it's like alchemy in the world of biology, because the principle of Darwinism is to transform lead into gold, to transform unicellular organism, an inferior organism, into a process of self-negation and progress and overcoming the struggle, into gold, which is thinking reason, which is man. And this thinking reason can reflect back onto itself and understand the entire development of itself. That's what atheist, materialist, empirical physicists and biologists would do. So Richard Dawkins, if you're watching this someday, I just want you to know that you understood everything except the fact that actually God exists. The atheist, the rationalist atheist, understand everything about God and nature. They just don't understand that what they understand, this is God. And yeah, and I will read a few passages from the Alchemist's Laboratory. The Alchemist's Laboratory. It's a speculative consideration of Hegel's philosophy. And Hegel says that speculative physics, which is the philosophy of nature, must acknowledge the laws, classifications, and categories introduced by empirical physics. And empirical physics is the first step towards the elaboration of speculative physics. So empirical physics should not be rejected, but incorporated into a speculative consideration of things. Our study and knowledge of the laws of nature rests on nothing other than our believing that nature has been formed by reason. Atheists, materialist scientists believe that. And he says that he's got a problem with the Newtonian dead mechanical system of externally related entities, and that his view is of a cosmos where all moments of the cosmic totality are interrelated, interconnected, and this is the magic of nature. Yeah, so Newtonian Cartesian mechanical physics must be aufgehoben, and you see in modern physics attempts, sometimes by Eastern physicists, to transcend the materialism and the dead aspect of nature into a more spiritualized view of nature, while incorporating the new discoveries of modern science. So this is world spirit expressing itself. And he says that Schelling describes nature as petrified intelligence, and the petrified intelligence must be awakened and must be liberated from its own state of lack of consciousness of itself. It must be made vivid and alive and intellectually thriving. And it is the activity of man to fluidify the petrified intelligence of nature, to extract itself as a natural being of the dead, unthinking unity of nature, and to bring it to consciousness of itself. And also that the absolute must corporealize itself, must embodies itself. God without a body would not be God. And that nature is the reflection, the unconscious expression of the ego, the transcendental ego expressing itself. So yeah. So I will just comment on the foreword on a book of modern physics, empirical physics, atheistic, materialist, rationalist physics. The author begins by saying that nature obeys laws, so that nature is rational, because to obey laws, the legislation and law and public judicial system is the will to impose laws in the human world, in the spiritual world. And nature produces man. the laws of nature produce man, and man produce laws in the political realm, and so man reflects nature, but that's an inverted view, but that's nonetheless true in the sense that the laws of nature become man, and man, by still obeying unconsciously the laws of nature, produces the laws of spirit, which Hegel calls objective spirit, which is politics, law, the judicial system, and so on. So from a cosmological Darwinian perspective, objective spirit is nature making herself objective to herself through the mind of man. So yeah. He says that when we understand the laws of nature, we can deduce and explain the phenomena. He said that all phenomena stem from the same fundamental causes, and the importance of Hegel's logic, and Hegel says somewhere that all the physicists, the empirical physicists, unconsciously use a metaphysic, because man is by essence a metaphysical creature, and metaphysics and logic are identical. So man is a logical creature, because whenever he speaks, he unconsciously uses categories, and the anti-metaphysical physicists, they still do have a metaphysics. They simply are not aware of it. When you use the word phenomenon, fundamental, cause, these are logical categories which have been brought forth to light by Hegel's logic. So the more you read abstract books on economics, physics, sociology, whatever, the more you stumble upon these logical categories which have been explained and developed in Hegel's logic. So yeah, the atheist, empirical, rationalist physicists unconsciously use Hegel's logic because they are rational creatures, and we all do. So yeah. He says that when we understand the laws of nature, nature acquires a magical unity, and this is the idea that from a Neoplatonist point of view, nature is the emanation of the one, so you have to transcend the diversity, the multiplicity, and through the thinking activity to bring back all this diversity back to unity, and this is the whole process of God. And he even says that he's an atheist, but he says that's magical to see the unity behind the many, to see the one behind the plurality. The motto of the United States is et pluribus unum, out of the many one. But that's the very notion of thinking activity, because to think is to bring back diversity back to unity. And the highest thought that you could have is the idea of absolute unity. Yeah. He says that physics is separated into artificial topics or fields like mechanics, thermodynamics, electromagnetism, optics, quantum physics, relativity, and nuclear physics. But these are all modes of perceiving the same one nature. It's just to simplify for man to make it intelligible, but actually it's all one being, which is nature. He said that from the ground or the fundamental forces, all the other particular laws are derived, and all the particular events and phenomena of nature derive from the ground. And Hegel says that it is in the essence and the concept of the ground that all what is grounded upon or founded upon or derived or consequentially deduced from the determination of the ground contains within itself the fundamental determination of the ground. So the tiniest phenomenon of nature contains the very essence of nature in itself. So yeah. He goes to say that in order to explain the phenomena, you have to go back to the fundamental laws. So you have to return to the ground. And this process of exteriorization and going back to the ground is the very process of God. And because God can be defined as the ground of all things. And yeah. He says that when we think about nature, we discover the magical unity of the universe behind its apparent diversity. So that's a very Platonic or Neoplatonic view that diversity is only seeming, it's only apparent, but the true reality of appearances is the unity of the idea. So even a modern atheistic, rationalist, empirical physicist admits unconsciously that Plato was right. He said that it's a joy to see and understand, to see through the eyes of the mind the unity of all things. That's a joy. Yeah. And I will stop for now. I will make a third part. But yeah, I just trying to show the metaphysical and logical aspect of physics.